If you've ever made a decision that just feels really right, even when you couldn't fully explain why, this is a conversation that's going to sound familiar to you. My name is Jenn Ocken, who has identified and named a particular capacity I call creative adaptive intelligence. This isn't a framework, it's not a methodology, nor is it really even a mindset. It's a named human capacity, specifically the capacity to meet uncertainty with clarity, discernment, and values-based decisions we make in the real time. And this is without defaulting to urgency, noise, or borrowed certainty. So to put it simply, it's what happens when you walk into a situation you don't control and you bring those best parts of you with you as a way to contribute. It's about the values you hold, the intelligence you have, and the parts of you that you don't give away, like your power, just because there's uncertainty hanging out in the room with us. I'm just giving a language for it, for what you're already doing. So, did I create it? And where did it come from? No, I didn't invent this capacity. We've always had it, and we've always been using it. What I did was identified it, and I've been studying it for a long time, and I gave it a name. It's sort of like the way Daniel Goleman did with emotional intelligence. EQ wasn't invented by Goleman. The capacity for emotional awareness existed long before he ever named it. What he did was recognize it as a distinct, nameable thing. And that recognition changes how we talk about it and develop that capacity. That's what I'm doing with creative adaptive intelligence. I started with a question. I got curious about not why things go wrong or right, but about the pattern underneath my successes. Someone once told me, "Does everything you touch, Jenn, turn to gold?" And I took it as a sweet, endearing observation and even a compliment. But I also got curious, genuinely curious about why she said that. I started studying my own decision making capacity and comparing the choices that led me to the successes with the ones that didn't. I gave a lot of attention and thought to the decisions that felt hard and costly, the ones where resistance was really, really loud, versus the ones where I reached with optimal results almost effortlessly, even when the payoff that came years later. There was one consistent thing present in every decision that worked. I returned to myself first. I checked in with my values. I checked in where I was emotionally and what was my current capacity. Because that fluctuates, right? Well, I also acknowledged what I had. And if any of my values were ever negated, I added additional layers of contemplation really before moving forward. My core values were non negotiable. If a decision negated one of them, the answer was almost always a no, or a reframe was needed before I could move. And that pattern I cultivated, the one about returning back to them, is what I eventually identified and named. I never really had the language for it then, but studying it and contemplating it, it was what eventually gave me the ability to use it on purpose. Instead of just being from when the conditions just happen to be right or getting lucky, so to say. Here's the other thing I want to say about where this came from. What fills that capacity is entirely yours. It's built from the things only you have to offer. Creative adaptive intelligence is all about your skills, your experiences, your wisdom, your purpose, your specific way of moving through your own life. And what you bring This is something I can't give you. I can only help you recognize that you already have it. Helping people see themselves, noticing that they're already using it and where they might be passing the results off as luck or giving their power away, where they're unknowingly working against their own creative adaptive intelligence. Helping someone see their own creative adaptive intelligence in action is one of the most direct paths to self leadership and self empowerment. Because when you see it operating, you can stop handing the credit or reaching for something else. That's why it can't be a framework. What I'm describing is the complete opposite. It's universal. It's individually based. We all have it. And how you use it is completely unique to you. So, how do you know if you have it? The question isn't whether or not you have it, it's whether you're aware of it operating. Let me just give you a concrete example from my own life, because the most useful thing I could do here is show you what it looks like in practice. When I moved to a new city, as a seasoned wedding photographer, I had a reputation in my previous market, but not the new one that I moved to. And I wanted to build credibility quickly and connect with vendors and potential clients. You see, in the previous city, I co-founded and designed and hosted a unique bridal event. And I wanted to do the same thing here in the new city again. It was something that felt and reflected a wedding celebration instead of this massive, overwhelming trade show that a lot of this industry is used to. It was an event that I personally actually wanted to attend. A smaller, curated space where brides could bring their entourage, have fun together, meet vendors, and get matched with the kind of people that want to help them celebrate and plan. Also, vendors that could help support this big life change that was happening even after the wedding celebration, and they were beginning their new chapter as a married couple. But before I made a single decision about the event, like the venue, the vendor list, the size, the market, the marketing, the committee, I tapped back in. I returned to myself first. I checked in with what I really wanted this outcome to be. I checked in with my values intentionally instead of allowing them to just run underneath without the attention that they really deserve. Whenever someone tried to deviate from the vision, I had to hold my ground, not out of rigidity and need for control, but because I needed them to experience what I already knew from the experiences and the lessons that happened when I created this in other cities. So, anyone that would bring a new idea to the table, before I would give it any kind of yes or no, I would return and make sure it didn't negate anything. And when these decisions that came from outside didn't negate my values, it was an easy yes. When they did, it was maybe not off the table, but it needed to be reframed. This is the return. The event was an instant success. In fact, I did it twice that first year, and we held it for several years after. The event and my reputation spread quickly, and so did the vendors who were a part of it. And I was seen immediately as the profession people could trust because I had the receipt of the success of the bridal event. And I brought everybody with me. That's creative adaptive intelligence operating not from a framework I applied, not from a method I followed, a capacity I returned to navigate my own clarity, my own discernment, and values based on choice in real time. I knew what I wanted and what was a priority for me and the mission of the event and my why. I brought all of that in with my experiences, my wisdom, and I came from the past experiences that guided the discernment to support every yes and every no along the planning process. So the question isn't, do I have it? Because you do. It's to think about when you have made those decisions from a place that you have paused, you have returned back to yourself, you've checked in with what actually matters, and moved from there instead of bringing noise and demands from the external output. You've done it. You may not have had the language for it. And that's what this is all for. This video, this YouTube channel, the essays and articles I'm writing, the talks I'm giving, and to name it for us so that we can use our own creative adaptive intelligence with intention. If you come away with anything today from watching this video, creative adaptive intelligence is not something you can obtain from me or through any framework. Every time you make a decision without a clear map, every time you've held your ground when everything was shifting, every time something fell apart and you found the one next true thing anyways, all of it is creative adaptive intelligence. The name doesn't give you the capacity. It gives you access to what you couldn't see before because it was too close, too familiar, too much like luck happening. I'm here to give you the language that helps you explain why the things that you took a chance on doesn't just work. It works really well. Once you can see it, you can use it on purpose. The full canonical definition and citation and everything I've written about creative adaptive intelligence is linked below. And if something in this conversation stirred something in you, that's you recognizing what was already there. That's your creative adaptive intelligence finally seen.